Hey there! Welcome to another episode of Every Day's a Trainwreck. I'm your host, Marley Major, and I've got a fun one for you today because she's one of the girls in the Party Goddess house. Please welcome Alison Harik, and she's going to dish with me all about Thanksgiving and how you can have a great Thanksgiving, tips from two amazing, if I may say so, party planners who have seen so much. So, Alison, welcome to the show, and let's make sure that we make this action-packed.
Yes, that sounds great, Marley.
Okay, so first of all, what do you usually do for Thanksgiving?
So usually I'll sit around the dining table. I'll have a nice meal with my family, surrounded by friends as well. We'll play games. We'll be all together. We'll cook together. And we'll make sure that the house is decorated with everything you could think of about the holidays.
Because I just found this out, and my daughter's 17, and I had no idea that she's like, I hate Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh my gosh, Thanksgiving, I think is my, really one of my favorite holidays. And I was trying to figure out why that is. And I think it's probably because it's on a Thursday. Practically no one is at work on Friday, right? So I don't feel guilty. And then I love the food. I mean, because it's like a hall pass to me, the tryptophan hall pass. Like you can get stuffing and the pies, and it's just like heaven, but it's just really chill. Like it's already fall. And so the time has changed. It's darker. It just feels like super snuggly. And I really was like, to my daughter, like, is there any other reason? She's like, no, I just hate the food. And I was like, okay, there you go. So, all right. The other thing is a lot of people, like me included, we have this tradition, like a lot of people have like Friendsgiving as opposed to Thanksgiving, right? Let's say they're far away from their families, or maybe they don't have a ton of family, etc. So it sounds like you kind of merge your family and your friends together, right?
Yes, exactly. Because sometimes it's nice to have, friends that are so close to you and they know your family, and just to have them all together really creates a different kind of atmosphere.
And we used to do that growing up. Like we would have, like one of my cousins, I remember he lived on the East Coast, but he was working in LA. And so sometimes he wouldn't go back for Thanksgiving. And so we always hosted him, or we kind of were like the wayward place, right? To host whoever was kind of around or didn't have family, or somebody's wife passed away or whatever. We were like, oh yeah, just come on down. Because to me, that's the nice part about Thanksgiving, is that it's like you've already got this huge turkey and stuffing. And even if you're vegan, you have your vegan version of whatever it would be. But I have yet to come across anybody who didn't have enough food on Thanksgiving. Like it just always seems like there's so many leftovers, right? And then the thing that we came up with, this is a million years ago. I'm trying to think, it's probably been like, probably like 13 years or something, is what my friends and I would do, is we would have Friendsgiving, which was the day before Thanksgiving. And that was the best, greatest thing ever, because no one had any plans. Like all you were supposed to do on the day before Thanksgiving, right? Like maybe you were cooking, but you could always sneak out because everybody knows they're getting together with their families on Thanksgiving. So you didn't feel guilty, right? You could just be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can go have a drink, and kind of like, really doesn't matter if you're hungover. I mean, not that I'm encouraging that, but not really, because then you just start the like tryptophan highway again later in the day on Thursday. So I think that's kind of a magical way to do it. And how we would always do it is we would do it at this one restaurant in Pasadena at the bar called Arroyo Chop House. And I would always joke that the Chop House was like my living room anyway, but we would have everybody knew it kind of was like 5:30, and that you had to get there early and you had to save seats. And it would be like, I would make like a little thing on my phone that was like, Drinksgiving, come one, come all, and then it like have the time and the address. But the idea was you could come by yourself. You could come for an hour. You could bring your boyfriend, your husband, your girlfriend, whoever. You could bring the random friend. You could bring your cooking partner, whoever you were like knee deep in the sauce with, and hang out. And they were always the most fun nights because there was like no pressure. Now, we still do that, of course, we have Drinksmas, which is the day before Christmas Eve. the 23rd, because it's the same thing. Everybody's got plans, or you feel like super bad, like on, New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, just out boozing, but you definitely don't on the 23rd. For any of those of you who haven't tried it, I highly recommend Drinksgiving or Drinksmas. But let's say that somebody isn't listening to this podcast to find out how to drink extra, but they do want to have a successful Thanksgiving. Okay. So let's talk about some of the key things that you need to do for a successful Thanksgiving. I mean, we've all been there probably, right? Like, you're a newlywed, you have kids, you've been at it for a while, you end up cooking for your in-laws, your parents get older, right? I mean, I've done every aspect. I've been the guest, I've been the hostess, I've, cooked it all from scratch, the whole 9 yards. And there are pitfalls all along the way. So let's kind of talk do's and don'ts. And as we were prepping for this episode, one of the things I said is, hey, listen, make sure to check out some of the trends, because there are some fun things and some newsworthy things going on these days. So what did you dig up?
So hosting doesn't necessarily mean doing everything.
Right.
It usually means organizing beautifully.
Right.
And what, would really add to the experience of being all together and, really having a good Thanksgiving would be a potluck. So really everybody just brings anything and everything that they want. You can assign it to your dad or your sister or your best friend and say, okay, you're bringing one side, you're bringing the salad, you're bringing the pie, and then we all get together. And really just having that experience also adds to the fact that everybody will have something to do and will really just be all together around the dining table.
But it does then have an element of organization. Like, it does have to have somebody kind of, it can't just be a total free for all. I mean, unless you just have like no standards whatsoever, in my opinion. I mean, you got to have somebody who's being like, we need 3 people to bring sides. We do need somebody handling a turkey. We do need somebody handling like bread or vegetables or salad. So what do you think the best way to organize that is? Like, do you think like a group text, like a WhatsApp? Like, what do you think?
So what's really been popular is always usually group text, because most people are on their phones.
Yeah.
And, they might not necessarily answer the phone, but they will see a text. So, always group text is the way to go. And it's usually the person that hosts that would usually start the text and really get the conversation going.
Yeah. And I love that. The other thing too is even though I'm such a tech girl and I write notes and everything too, is I will still kind of compile all of it like on a Google sheet, like even just for my own. Granted, we're event planners. We have our master Google Sheets for events, that are everything right down to like, here's the menu, then another tab, here are the platters, then another tab, here are the beverage menu. And so you don't have to go crazy like we do planning an event. So it's second nature to us now. But I do think there is something really handy about just putting, sides, what they are, who's bringing them, and, approximately for how many people. But the other thing too is when you bring up the potluck, like one of the questions I always get asked as far as whenever I do a TV segment about Thanksgiving is like the leftovers and the container that people bring stuff in. And so one of the tips I definitely want to share with you guys is when you bring something to the potluck and you want it back, you put a piece of tape on the bottom with a Sharpie with your name. If it's going to be a super big group or you're going to somebody's house so you don't know, let's say you were just included, you put your name and your cell phone number, right? So that otherwise you're not going to get the Pyrex back. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree 100%, because we all know that when you go to someone's house, your Tupperware is going to stay there for life.
Right. And then there's the thing of leftovers. And one of my little tips and tricks is, maybe just because I'm cheap when it comes to this kind of stuff. I mean, I know if I'm being just total like edgy party planner, I would be online, like on Restaurant Supply or something like that, or Amazon, getting super cute disposable stuff and having it all packaged and branded. But if you don't want to do that and you want kind of the free option, one of the things that, like, I'm the takeout queen at home, everybody makes fun of me for that, is you can save all of your like Grubhub delivery stuff for days like this when you're going to be sending people home with tons of stuff. And I will tell you, it's magic. I don't know what it is. It feels so satisfying for me when I have like 9,000 things of pho, like soup containers, and I can just be like, here you go, gravy. And you don't care. You write with the Sharpie on it, and that's Jane Doe. You can prepackage stuff as the night is going on. It's kind of part of the cleanup process. And then everybody has these little totes and satchels they can take. And then it's like, thank you, run along. And then the hostess doesn't have to worry about getting their dishes and stuff back.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great idea as well. And if, let's say, someone doesn't want to do that and doesn't want to take the takeout containers, well, for instance, Walmart sells, containers that are under $10.
Yeah.
And, it's also a great way for people to go. Let's say you don't want to cook.
Yeah.
Well, what Walmart does, they actually do Thanksgiving baskets.
Yeah.
You can go and get them for really low prices. So that can also really help.
Right. And then the other thing to think of is just to have a plan for the leftovers. I mean, even though I'm a professional party planner, even though I have hosted Thanksgiving a billion times, for some reason, the leftovers always kind of catch me by surprise, right? So it's one of those, this is the time to go to Costco or the restaurant supply or whatever and get the giant roll of saran wrap that might last you 400 years, right? And get the giant roll of like tinfoil because you're never going to have enough, right? You're going to be like going through it and going through it. And then there's nothing worse than not wrapping something tightly enough. And you find out it's spilled in somebody's car and, they have gravy all over the place, et cetera, et cetera. So just really think ahead as far as the leftovers. And I don't know, I just love it as far as like kind of a kitchen cleanup thing, because if you say to people at the end, hey, do you want to take some stuff home? So many times they're like, oh no, because they're so full, they don't want to bother. But if you're packing that stuff up as the turkey's coming back into the kitchen, and then you're like, here you go, thank you, you all run along. Next.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great way also to be working together and then to really have something that you can bring home.
Totally. Yeah. And then what was the deal with Walmart? They were also in the news for something else, right? Are they the ones that intentionally decided to make Thanksgiving affordable this year? What was the deal with them?
Yeah, so they realized that, due to inflation and everything being so much more expensive, that really all of the food that's going to be used for Thanksgiving or that can be used, even the decorations, really just everything will be lower prices.
Which is, I think, a huge marketing thing. Obviously, we're talking about on this podcast. I've seen it mentioned in all kinds of other, news apps and stuff. And that kind of makes me think of, as far as leftovers go, is, the government has been shut down for a record amount of time. So many people it just amazes me how many people are hungry in this country. And I'm sure the government shutdown only made that worse. So maybe part of the potluck could be where you say, hey, listen, bring your side, or bring you're in charge of apple pie or something like that. And then maybe you say, bring an extra can or couple cans so that you as a group can put together like a big bag of stuff or big basket of stuff to go to your local homeless shelter or, feeding kids or the hungry.
Yeah, that would be great. A lot of food banks also do need volunteers and do need those boxes. So really anything that you could gather for Thanksgiving is a great idea for sure.
Now, one of the tips I always try to tell people is check your oven temperature like the week before, literally like right now, where you turn it to 350 or 425 or whatever it's supposed to be. And then you actually put the thermometer in the oven. And if it says 425, does the thermometer inside say 425? Because I swear to you, my oven will work all year long. All of a sudden it's Thanksgiving and I'm like, blast, why is this stuff not cooking right? Or like, why is it? And especially I think when you've got so many people coming over, or like my son just got married, he's a newlywed. And if they host Thanksgiving, you get ruffled, right? And there is a difference between baking and convection oven, right? The convection oven's going to make it go whoom, so much faster. And then we kind of come to the point of the frozen turkey. And have you had any good frozen turkey stories in your life, Alison? Because if you haven't, I have had many.
So unfortunately, no, but I would love to hear yours.
Well, the answer is the opposite. You should say, fortunately, no, I have not had any turkey disaster. Okay. And it's easy to have happen, right? Especially if you're doing Drinksgiving the day before, you're distracted and you're busy. Or if you're a mom and you've got kids coming home or people coming from out of town, or you've got, trying to set the place settings and don't forget the butter and wine and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that we forget is you cannot put a frozen turkey into the frickin' oven and then assume, oh, the turkey is going to take X amount of time to cook, but you forget, oh, it's frozen, or you kind of just took it out. And then you have this whole salmonella situation. So what's really important to remember is always keep like food safety in mind. And so you want to defrost your turkey. You don't want to just like take it out the night before from the freezer and just sit it on the counter, right? Like you want to defrost it in the refrigerator. And that takes time. So figure out how many pounds of turkey you've got. I love ChatGPT and AI for everything. So definitely ask it, but verify if it tells you to take the turkey out X amount of time, because last thing you want to do is find out that this is one of the times ChatGPT was lying to you, right? But defrost it and then make sure you still have plenty of time. And it just amazes me how many times that freaking turkey just takes like hours longer. I don't know what it is. It just seems to. And guess what? You can't really start the dinner and have all these amazing sides and then be like, well, the turkey needs another 90. We'll just start with what we've got now and then jump into the turkey. It's not going to work. You can't do it, right? I mean, you'd have to have a very, very, very heavily drinking crowd to not notice that the turkey came as like pumpkin pie time. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So really the priority is your oven. You go, you defrost it. If you feel like you're going to forget because you're too busy, put a reminder on your phone.
Oh, yeah,
Put in a
totally.
the day before, and then you'll thank us.
Yes, you totally will. And even as many times as I've done this, I still, for events, have an old-fashioned piece of paper and a pen out, and I will send, you can pre-type it if you want, but I will just be like, turkey equals 6 hours or whatever it is, right? And then I will put the time, turkey in, 12:22, out 6:22, so that no matter what I know exactly when I put this in, when I put that on the stove, because what happens is you think you're going to remember. And then the next thing you know, you're like, wait a second, was it 12:22 or 12:42? And then and people are coming in, they're talking to you. I mean, it's a whole nine. So just write it down, turkey X amount of hours. And I also do that to be like kind of the order of my day. Like anything that I can get done ahead of time, I want to get done ahead of time. Like anything I can kind of, and then reheat just right before, right? But so that's a huge one. Another huge one for me is literally writing everything down, and then set the timer on your phone. But on your phone, I don't know about you, I need all the reminders I can get, but I like on my phone for it to, normally it's default to just say like alarm. So I'll set it and it'll be like, I'll change, instead of saying alarm, it'll say like turkey out, or turkey out, green bean water to start boiling, something like that. Because it just, you just get so confused. Now, what are some of the other things that you like to get done ahead of time so that you don't have to be stressing the day up?
So usually what I like, and it also helps me get into the mood, it's put up the decorations. Really just set them up, get them ready. So that way I don't have to worry about it the day of, and I could just think about making that turkey
Yeah.
and everything else. So really, decorations. And I mean, they're so important that you don't have to go and spend hundreds of dollars.
No.
We're talking about Walmart. You can go and literally get something for under $10,
Yeah.
and a huge idea right now that's been super trendy is using mason jars.
Yeah.
And adding flowers to them, putting some twine, some leaves that you get from your yard, and then putting some flowers, and it really adds and it elevates your table. So that's, for instance, one idea that you could use.
Totally. And one of the things that I'm huge on is just like cylindrical vases, clear glass jars. They can be totally mixed matched. No, they do not need to be the same. No, they don't need to be like crystal or china. This is an amazing time to raid the Goodwill or to, pull out all those like, random vases you've gotten with the random bouquet of flowers. And Thanksgiving, depending on what your color story is and kind of your theme, you can just take like even coffee bean bags, right, that are made out of jute and tie them around ugly vases or ugly jars. That hides so much. You just tie that and tie a piece of raffia or, some kind of like even just like a piece of leather cord or something and put greenery from outside. Or if you've got those beautiful liquid amber trees that change colors, or even if you do have a cylindrical vase. And I mean, it's amazing. Go buy a few bags or walnuts in the shells, right? And spray paint them gold and or spray paint some gold and some copper, and you can have those as far as like going down the runner of your tablecloth. You can have them in the cylindrical vases. Like it isn't like, oh, I've got to go to XYZ florist and spend, $250 on some table arrangement. No, like line the table with all kinds of stuff that you've foraged from outside. And another great thing to do too is to use pomegranates. I love that because then they look very like dried, and even if they're fresh, they still look good on a Thanksgiving table. And then the cool thing is they're red. And so guess what? You can like have them dried and reuse them, for Christmas-ish. And
yeah. And look, I mean, if you want to even use that vase for a game, you can make a gratitude tree. You can get branches inside, put notes on the branch and then read them at the end of the night. And I mean, that really just adds to also the experience that you have, with your family and your friends.
There's brain work, science, everything about that gratitude stuff. Like the more you stay focused on being grateful and, listen, if you're having a bad time, and I've been there, some of the days I'm supposed to do I try to do 5 things specifically every day for which I'm grateful. And sometimes it's like, okay, I'm grateful for the color of the leaves today. I'm grateful, I guess, that I can breathe, but so sometimes it does get to be, but no matter how bad it is, there is something we can all be grateful for. And I think when you sort of force that, and that can be a great icebreaker, right? Like even at Thanksgiving, not everybody knows each other. So you can have that as people enter. And if you have kids, you can even have the kids make it a tree. And then you can have little note cards, or people can write them like in metallic mark or something on a leaf, and you just have it. That can even be part of your centerpiece. But I do think it's a nice touch, especially these days when, there's the government shutdown. There's so many people are divided. Like so many people are challenged during the holidays, right? People get depressed. And I think we can't underestimate that. Just because somebody has a smile on their face, everything is okay. A lot of times it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's important to also remember that, we're all here together, we're all trying to support each other. And I mean, that's also, a great way to get to be together on Thanksgiving, and to use that time to really, work together. And that's why Thanksgiving is really important to me.
I love that. And I also love, I'm a big trivia person and like a big bingo person, all these things. And I just think it's so funny sometimes to be like, what is the state that produces the most pumpkin pies? Or why do we eat XYZ on Thanksgiving? Or what name the 3 of the foods that they ate on the first Thanksgiving. And I'm telling you, it is so different from what we do now that you're like, really? Or where why do we have like the turkey with the little paper feathers and all this stuff? Like, why does every preschooler make that kind of stuff? It just silly stuff like that just gets people talking. And what do you do because I've got some tips and tricks, maybe because I've got, some boisterous people in my life, but how do you think it's best handled when maybe somebody has an extra cocktail, or maybe somebody is just kind of not socially aware and they bring up politics, or they bring up just something that is just going to set half the crowd off. Like, what do you think are some of the good things to do?
Usually to diffuse that situation, I would make a joke. Not necessarily about the topic that they're talking about, but really just about something that I'm noticing or something that I'm seeing throughout the evening.
Right.
And then make people think about it, and then they're going to forget the conversation.
How about those Dodgers? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Right. People are going to laugh, and then they're going to forget the conversation that they're having. So then,
Right.
you can go and really just transition it to something else. And that would really, help make it less awkward if that were to ever happen.
And I think it's also good to, as much as you can plan ahead, to plan ahead. Like, we all know there are certain people in our lives, right, that tend to just get themselves stuck in the mud. I don't think it should be the host or hostess. They've got too much going on. But I think it's a good idea to have somebody who is that diplomatic person, right? Who you can kind of send in and be like, oh my goodness, we're going to have a cleanup there on aisle 5 in about 10 seconds because so-and-so just brought up so-and-so's ex-wife and yet, like who's dating the pool man. I mean, whatever it is. And somebody that can kind of just be in there and troubleshooting. And then speaking of troubleshooting, there's always that whole thing of, the red wine, or somebody like the gravy pours all over the white tablecloth. So what do you do? Well, how do you think you should handle it?
Well, you should turn it into a game as well. You should make the best disaster win. And then at the end of the night, you can give them, something small, or even give them, just maybe a gift card that's $10, or really just make a laugh out of it. And you can go and say, who's the worst spill of the night, or who made the worst joke. And really you just turn it into something fun, and lively.
Right. Well, I love that. And it could also be even with kids, like who can Google the fast, like how to, get red wine out of the couch the fastest, who can do, and even split tests. Like, okay, kids, you try this with the salt. And by the way, salt does work. I will tell you, I've had some nasty situations. Like you spill the red wine on the light carpet or even on your clothes, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what do you do? And the biggest thing to do right away is to put like salt. I think even baking soda works too. You guys would have to Google that. And it lifts it out. And whatever you do, don't start like trying to rub it in. And anything with like the stains, is the faster you can get to them, the better. Like with us, with tablecloths and everything, oh my gosh, even if you are so tired and so desperate to go to bed, if you have some kind of special tablecloth, I would still like treat it before you go to bed, because those extra 8 or 12 hours make, a big difference. So yeah, I would just say get on that stuff. But if you do have a lot of people around, and you've got like, and I know this from, when we're doing events where you've got all these different tablecloths, and what's the natural thing to do is you take them all off the tables, right? And they all go kind of in a ball, and the linen napkin, same thing, all kind of go in the ball. And then they sit there and they will get moldy so fast. And that is like one stain that is so difficult to get out. So whatever you do, don't ball up the linens, even if you can't treat them, just don't have everything all kind of glommed together. Yeah. So, all right, that's good. Now, what do you think about, what else is like important to keep in mind? Like, what do you think? Do you think if you're going to somebody's house and it's a potluck and you're already bringing something, should you also bring a hostess gift? Should you, like, what do you think?
So usually, and that's just really how I am and how I was raised, was you always bring something to someone's house, even if it's a potluck. It doesn't have to be something expensive, of course not. Mm-hmm. But a nice bouquet of flowers, or even a plant, really just something that just tells you, oh, thank you for having us in your home. And if, like, say, you have things at home and you want to make something, make a card.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can make a thankful note, and that really does add to someone's experience, and someone appreciating you, and you showing them that you appreciate them too.
Right. And speaking of bringing flowers, that's a great one. However, it's super bad form to bring just the bouquet of flowers, like with that, and then hand them to the hostess and be like, have them scramble for a vase, because that's exactly what you don't want them to do. And so bring the bouquet of flowers. And one of the things that's I think that that's kind of genius, is they even have those, they're like almost like flat pack kind of vases, right? That can be part of the gifts. You can bring the beautiful flowers and then you can just open that up and it's kind of like a pop-up vase almost. You can fill it with water so that they can go right in the water. The hostess doesn't have to think twice about it, and host or hostess. And then you're not giving them something that, oh, guess what? Now they're going to die. But
Wow.
all right. Anything else that we can, any other heads up that we can help people prep for Thanksgiving that you can think of?
Honestly, no, but Thanksgiving is not about perfection.
Yeah.
It's really just
Great point.
about showing that you appreciate one another. So, really just make sure that it's fun, that it's stress proof for you, but also that, it can be affordable. And that's,
Right.
Really what we're all here for.
Right,
So,
right. And yeah, and I think that as far as the affordability thing, I think the potluck thing definitely helps. I think, shopping kind of what's in season, right? And that doesn't mean it has to be canned stuff. It just means, don't necessarily go looking for strawberries if they're not in season where you are. And really taking advantage of what's bountiful and what's available. And if there's a big shortage on mushrooms or something this year, and you're going to use all these exotic mushrooms for your stuffing, then switch something out. The other thing too, though, that I would love to challenge everybody to is to please save their stock bones for the turkey and put it in your Instapot, or make your stock overnight with all your scraps and everything else. Like it doesn't have to be Thanksgiving night, obviously, but you cannot get rid of those magical bones because the stock is amazing. It's so good for you, especially as cold season and all that is coming up. But the other thing, I was just thinking something else when we were kind of talking about platters and stuff, is pull all that stuff out a few days before and put a Post-it on it, like the platter and then what the serving piece is that you're going to do. And please, do not have them be those restaurant, what you use in the back of the house, little metallic things. I mean, what a nightmare. Yeah, it should be something presentable, and no stickers or labels, even if the cake did come from Bonds, just de-plastify it and present it. So
yeah. And also make sure that your pets don't touch that dining table, because I've had
God, yeah.
of my dog eating a whole chocolate cake.
Oh, yes.
It's not that your pet is not near the table.
Right. I love it. Well, okay. So hopefully you guys, we gave you some tips and tricks so that you are not as stressed out for Thanksgiving. And you can find us on Instagram at The Party Goddess. So don't forget to ask us your questions. And definitely after this podcast airs, make sure you pop into Instagram and tell us what is your biggest fear about Thanksgiving. And then also kind of let us know, are you a veteran? What's your deal? What are you? How far along in the process are you of hosting Thanksgiving? All right. Well, Alison, thank you so much for being on. And hopefully we gave you some great Thanksgiving and Friendsgiving tips and tricks. I'm Marley Major, your host. Here is another episode of Every Day's a Trainwreck. And we will look forward to seeing you next week. Happy celebrating. Bon appetit. Okay. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe, comment, and feel free to tell us what you want to hear about on next week's episodes. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.